The alien race known as the Cliverians had once thrived as a beacon of peace and intellectual achievement in the galaxy. Their homeworld, Clivar Prime, was a lush, vibrant planet teeming with bioluminescent flora and fauna, a testament to their harmonious relationship with nature. The Cliverians were not warriors. They were philosophers, artists, and scientists who believed in the power of knowledge over force. Their cities were sprawling marvels of organic architecture, blending seamlessly with the environment. For centuries, they had contributed to the galactic community through their advancements in medicine, energy, and cultural exchange. Yet, their lack of militarization and their gentle nature made them vulnerable in a galaxy where strength often dictated survival. The catastrophe began without warning. A nearby star, long thought stable, began to destabilize, emitting deadly radiation that swept across Clivar Prime. The planet's atmosphere, once a protective shield, began to erode under the relentless assault. Crops withered, water sources became contaminated, and the Cliverians' fragile bodies succumbed to radiation sickness. Desperation gripped the population as their world crumbled around them. The Cliverians sent out a galaxy-wide distress signal, pleading for aid from any civilization capable of helping. They had no warships, no armies, no leverage, only hope that their contributions to the galaxy would inspire others to come to their aid. But hope was in short supply. The galactic community, a loose coalition of advanced civilizations, turned a blind eye to the Cliverians' plight. The Zarathians, a militaristic species, dismissed their cries as the inevitable fate of the weak. The Illurians, masters of commerce, calculated the cost of intervention and found it too high. Even the Quarrens, who had once collaborated with the Cliverians on scientific projects, cited political neutrality as their reason for inaction. The Cliverians watched in despair as their messages went unanswered, their allies silent. The galaxy had abandoned them to die. It was by chance that a human exploration vessel, the Odyssey, intercepted the distress signal. The Odyssey was not a warship or a diplomatic envoy. It was a small, unassuming ship tasked with charting uncharted regions of space. Captain Elena Marquez and her crew were far from home. Their mission wanted discovery rather than rescue. When the signal reached them, it was faint, almost drowned out by the static of deep space. But the urgency in the Cliverians' message was unmistakable. Captain Marquez convened her crew to discuss their options. The Odyssey was not equipped for a large-scale rescue operation, and diverting to Clivar Prime would mean abandoning their current mission. Yet, as the crew listened to the desperation in the Cliverians' plea, there was no debate. Humanity had always been driven by a sense of duty to those in need, no matter the cost. The decision was unanimous. The Odyssey set a course for Clivar Prime, its crew preparing for the unknown. As they approached the planet, the scale of the disaster became apparent. The once vibrant world was now shrouded in a haze of radiation, its surface scarred by the dying star's wrath. The Cliverian cities, once symbols of beauty and ingenuity, lay in ruins. The crew of the Odyssey knew they were facing an impossible task, but they also knew they could not turn away. Humanity had answered the call, not because it was easy, but because it was right. The Cliverians, who had been left to die by the rest of the galaxy, now had a glimmer of hope, a hope carried by the humans who had chosen to stand by their side. The Odyssey descended through Clivar Prime's thinning atmosphere, its sensors scanning for signs of life. The planet's surface was a desolate wasteland, its once vibrant ecosystems reduced to ash and ruin. Captain Elena Marquez and her crew were no strangers to hardship, but the scale of the devastation before them was overwhelming. The Cliverians' distress signal had painted a grim picture, but seeing the reality firsthand was something else entirely. The crew knew they were ill-equipped for a mission of this magnitude, but they also knew they couldn't turn back. Humanity had made its choice, and now they had to see it through. The Cliverians who greeted the humans were a shadow of their former selves. Once tall and graceful, their bioluminescent skin now dull and cracked from radiation exposure, they moved with the weariness of a people who had lost all hope. Their leader, a scholar named Valen, approached the humans with a mixture of gratitude and disbelief. "You came," he said, his voice trembling. "We had given up on the galaxy, but you came." Captain Marquez nodded, her expression resolute. "We're here to help," she replied, "but we need to know what you're up against." Valen explained the situation in detail. The dying star, the failing atmosphere, the dwindling supplies. The Cliverians had done what they could survive, but their efforts were no match for the relentless onslaught of radiation. The humans quickly realized the enormity of the task before them. The Odyssey was a small ship with limited resources, and Clivar Prime's problems required solutions far beyond their capabilities. The crew debated their options, weighing the risks and rewards of each potential course of action. Some argued that they should focus on evacuating as many Cliverians as possible, while others believed they needed to address the root cause of the crisis, the dying star. Captain Marquez listened to her crew's input before making a decision. "We'll do both," she said. "We'll stabilize the planet as best we can and evacuate those who can't be saved. We're not leaving anyone behind." The first step was to establish a safe zone where the Cliverians could gather for evacuation. The humans used the Odyssey's limited medical supplies to treat the sick and injured, while engineers worked to repair the Cliverians' damaged infrastructure. It was a race against time, as the radiation level continued to rise and the atmosphere grew thinner with each passing hour. The humans worked tirelessly, driven by a sense of purpose that transcended their own survival. They knew they were the Cliverians' last hope, and they refused to let them down. Meanwhile, the Odyssey's science officer, Dr. Raj Patel, began analyzing data on the dying star. He discovered that the star's destabilization was caused by a rare cosmic event, a collision with a rogue black hole. The impact had triggered a chain reaction that was now threatening to consume the entire system. Dr. Patel proposed a daring plan. Using the Odyssey's engines to create a gravitational counterforce, they could slow the star's collapse and buy the Cliverians more time. It was a risky maneuver, one that could easily fail and doom both the humans and the Cliverians. But it was also their only chance. Captain Marquez approved the plan, and the crew began preparations. The Odyssey would need to fly dangerously close to the dying star, using its engines to generate a stabilizing field. The Cliverians, meanwhile, would continue evacuating to the safe zone, where the humans had set up makeshift shelters and medical facilities. The two races worked side by side, their collaboration a testament to the power of unity in the face of adversity. The Cliverians, who had once believed themselves abandoned by the galaxy, now found strength in the humans' unwavering determination. As the Odyssey approached the dying star, the tension on board was palpable. The ship's engines strained against the star's immense gravitational pull, and the crew could feel the heat even through the reinforced hull. Dr. Patel monitored the readings closely, making adjustments to the gravitational field as needed. For a moment, it seemed like the plan might work. The star's collapse slowed, and the radiation levels on Clivar Prime began to stabilize. But then, without warning, the star flared violently, sending a shock wave through the system. The Odyssey was thrown off course, its engines failing as the crew struggled to regain control. Back on Clivar Prime, the Cliverians watched in horror as the human ship disappeared into the star's fiery embrace. For a moment, it seemed like all was lost. But then, against all odds, the Odyssey emerged from the chaos, battered but intact. The star's collapse had been halted, at least temporarily, and the radiation levels on the planet began to drop. The humans had done the impossible, buying Cliverians precious time to complete their evacuation. Captain Marquez and her crew were exhausted, but they knew their work was far from over. They had made a promise to Cliverians, and they intended to keep it, no matter the cost. The Odyssey's success in stabilizing the dying star was a temporary reprieve, but it gave the humans and Cliverians the window they needed to accelerate their efforts. The safe zone, now bustling with activity, became the focal point of the rescue operation. The Cliverians, though weakened, worked alongside the humans with a renewed sense of purpose. They had seen the lengths to which these strangers were willing to go for them, and it ignited a spark of hope they had thought extinguished. The collaboration between the two species was a testament to the power of unity, but the challenges ahead remained daunting. The evacuation process was a logistical nightmare. The Cliverians numbered in the millions, and the Odyssey could only carry a fraction of that. Captain Marquez knew they needed more ships, but reaching out to Earth for reinforcements would take time they didn't have. Instead, the crew focused on maximizing their resources. They repurposed the Odyssey's cargo bays into makeshift living quarters, cramming as many Cliverians as possible into the limited space. Every square inch of the ship was utilized, from the engineering decks to the observation lounges. The humans worked in shifts, ensuring that the evacuation continued around the clock. Meanwhile, Dr. Patel and his team turned their attention to Clivar Prime's failing atmosphere. The planet's biosphere had been devastated by the radiation, and without immediate intervention, it would soon become completely uninhabitable. Using data gathered from the Odyssey S sensors, they devised a plan to seed the atmosphere with nanobots designed to repair the ozone layer and filter out the remaining radiation. It was a long shot, but it was the only chance they had to save the planet. The Cliverians, though unfamiliar with the technology, eagerly assisted in production and deployment of the nanobots. Their ingenuity and adaptability impressed the humans, who had initially underestimated their resilience. As the evacuation and atmospheric repair efforts progressed, the humans faced mounting physical and emotional strain. The crew of the Odyssey had been operating on minimal sleep for days, and the constant pressure was taking its toll. Captain Marquez herself was running on sheer willpower, her determination to see the mission through keeping her going despite her exhaustion. The Cliverians, recognizing the human sacrifices, did what they could to ease the burden. They shared stories of their culture and history, offering moments of respite amidst the chaos. These exchanges deepened the bond between the two species, transforming the rescue mission into something more profound, a partnership forged in the crucible of adversity. The Odyssey S engineers, led by Chief Engineer Mikhail Volkov, faced their own set of challenges. The ship's systems were pushed to their limits, and breakdowns became increasingly frequent. Volkov and his team worked tirelessly to keep the Odyssey operational, often resorting to creative solutions when replacement parts were unavailable. At one point, the ship's life support system failed, threatening the lives of everyone on board. The engineers managed to rig a temporary fix using components scavenged from the Cliverians' damaged infrastructure, but it was a stark reminder how precarious their situation was. Despite the setbacks, progress was being made. The nanobots began to take effect, slowly repairing the atmosphere and reducing the radiation levels on Clivar Prime. The evacuation efforts, though slow, were steadily reducing the number of Cliverians stranded on the planet. The humans' determination never wavered. Even as the odds seemed insurmountable, they were driven by a sense of duty and compassion that transcended their own survival, a quality that set them apart from the rest of the galaxy. The Cliverians, for their part, began to regain their strength and spirit. They took on more responsibilities, organizing their people and assisting the humans in every way they could. Valen, their leader, became a symbol of hope for his people, his unwavering faith in the humans inspiring others to keep fighting. He often spoke of the debt his people owed to humanity, a debt he vowed to repay in whatever way he could. The humans, however, saw no debt, only a shared responsibility to protect and preserve life, no matter the cost. As the mission entered its final phase, the humans and Cliverians faced one last, critical challenge. The dying star, though temporarily stabilized, was beginning to show signs of renewed instability. The Odyssey's earlier intervention had bought them time, but it was clear that the star's collapse was inevitable. The humans knew they had to complete the evacuation before the star's final collapse, which would unleash a wave of destruction capable of wiping out the entire system. The race against time became even more urgent, with every second counting. The final evacuation shuttles lifted off from Clivar Prime as the star's light began to flicker ominously. The Odyssey, now packed to capacity, prepared to make the jump to hyperspace. Captain Marquez stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the dying star. She knew they had done everything they could, but the weight of those they couldn't save weighed heavily on her. As the Odyssey entered hyperspace, leaving Clivar Prime behind, the crew and Cliverians alike felt a mix of relief and sorrow. They had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. The humans had proven that even in the darkest of times, compassion and courage could light the way forward. The Odyssey emerged from hyperspace near Earth, its arrival heralded by a flurry of activity. News of the mission had spread across the planet, and humanity watched with bated breath as the ship approached. The Cliverians, now safe but still reeling from their ordeal, were greeted with open arms. Earth's governments, though initially hesitant to accept such a large number of refugees, were swayed by the overwhelming public support for the Cliverians. The humans' actions had struck a chord with people across the globe, reminding them the values that defined their species: compassion, solidarity, and the willingness to stand up for those in need. The Cliverians were settled in temporary shelters, where they began the long process of rebuilding their lives. Earth scientists and medical professionals worked tirelessly to help them adapt to their new environment, while volunteers provided food, clothing, and emotional support. The Cliverians, though far from home, found solace in the kindness of their human hosts. Valen, their leader, expresses gratitude in a speech broadcast to the world. "You have given us more than a new home," he said. "You have given us hope, and for that, we will be forever grateful." His words resonated deeply, reinforcing the bond between the two species. The galactic community, however, was less enthusiastic. The Zorathians, Illurians, and other major powers viewed humanity's actions with a mixture of skepticism and disdain. They saw the rescue mission as a reckless waste of resources, a sentiment echoed in their official statements. "The galaxy is a harsh place," declared the Zorathian High Council. "Sentimentality has no place in survival." The Illurians, ever pragmatic, questioned the long-term viability of integrating the Cliverians into human society. "What will you do when the next crisis arises?" asked an Illurian diplomat. "Will you sacrifice yourselves for every helpless species you encounter?" Humanity's response was unequivocal. Leaders from across Earth came together to issue a joint statement, reaffirming their commitment to the values that had guided the Odyssey-S mission. "We do not see compassion as a weakness," they declared. "It is our greatest strength. We will not abandon those in need, no matter the cost." The statement was met with widespread approval, not just on Earth, but among smaller, less powerful civilizations who had long felt ignored by the galaxy's dominant powers. Humanity's actions had sparked a quiet revolution, challenging the status quo and inspiring others to reconsider their priorities. The Cliverians, meanwhile, began to contribute to their new home in meaningful ways. Their expertise in medicine and energy technology proved invaluable, leading to breakthroughs that benefited both species. They also shared their rich cultural heritage, enriching Earth's artistic and intellectual landscape. The humans, in turn, helped the Cliverians adapt to their new reality, teaching them the skills they needed to thrive in a world so different from their own. The partnership between the two species became a model of cooperation, a shining example of what could be achieved when differences were set aside in pursuit of a common goal. Over time, the Cliverians' presence on Earth began to reshape humanity's place in the galaxy. Smaller civilizations, inspired by the humans' actions, sought closer ties with Earth, seeing it as a beacon of hope in an often uncaring universe. The Zorathians and Illurians, though still skeptical, could not ignore the growing influence of this once insignificant species. Humanity's willingness to stand up for the vulnerable had earned them respect, even from those who disagreed with their methods. Captain Marquez and the crew of the Odyssey were hailed as heroes, though they shunned the spotlight. For them, the mission had never been about glory. It had been about doing what was right. Marquez often reflected on the lessons they had learned from the Cliverians, particularly the importance of resilience and hope. "They showed us that even in the darkest times, there is always a way forward," she said in a rare interview. "We just have to be willing to take the first step." The Cliverians, too, carried the lessons of their ordeal with them. They had lost their home, but they had gained something equally precious: a new family in humanity. Valen often spoke of the debt his people owed to the humans, but the humans saw it differently. "There is no debt," Marquez told him. "We are all part of the same galaxy, and we all have a responsibility to each other. That's what it means to be human." As the years passed, the bond between humans and Cliverians grew stronger. Together, they faced new challenges and explored new frontiers, their partnership a testament to the power of compassion and courage. The galaxy, though still a harsh and unforgiving place, began to change slowly but surely. Humanity's actions had planted a seed, and from that seed grew a new vision of what the galaxy could be, a place where no one was left behind, and where the strong stood up for the weak. In the end, the story of the Odyssey and the Cliverians became more than just a tale of rescue and survival. It became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, kindness and determination could change the course of history. The humans had not just saved a species, they had inspired a galaxy, and in doing so, they had proven that the true measure of civilization was not its power or wealth, but its willingness to extend a hand to those in need.